Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. Now, DJ, you gotta fade us all the way out. Fade us all the way out because we gotta talk to the people. It is January 17th, 2024. It is officially my first episode of the year, ladies and gentlemen. I know, I left y'all waiting. I took some time. I know. But I mean, for good reason, man. For good reason. Now, before we get started, this is officially episode number 145, or 145 episodes in deep. And this year, this is going to be the biggest year for the Digipreneur FM podcast. I know, I can feel it. I'm seeing the way forward. I'm seeing where I'm going to be having a lot of fun this year and where, we're going to be taking the podcast. Whereas last year, you make plans. And sometimes the plans don't go the way that you expected it to go. But last year went better than I could have ever expected because for the most part, the majority of the things that I did or was involved in, I did not see coming and could not have planned out because I never even knew or thought about it being, available to me, So this year, with last year, with all of the travel, I've mentioned this before, with all the travel and me not being home, the podcast suffered, wasn't able to, get onto my favorite channel to talk to you guys and to educate and teach and have these discussions. And this year we're changing all of that. So the reason it's taken me, 2 weeks and change to get back on the podcast was because I was out in Florida up until a couple days ago. So I left on January 1st. So as the clock struck 12, I was headed to the airport. And I spent some time with some family out in Florida, in a place called Winter Haven. A haven you would go to get away from winter. And boy, nobody told me that it's cold. It felt like winter. And the only thing it was a haven from was snow. But it felt like winter. Boy, oh boy, was it cold. It was cold every single day, and I was freezing my little tail off. But being out there, I was able to kind of just, get my thoughts in order, and I was able to make some good purchases. I'm going to have a separate episode talking about like the technology that you're going to need for this year coming up to really build your brand online and create content. I'm going to do a separate blog on that. And I made some purchases, I made some investments. I won't call them purchases. I made some investments. And one of the investments was on pretty much a mobile content creation / podcast studio, right? So now I am going to be able to pack my podcast studio in my knapsack, in my travel luggage, if need be. But I'm able. I bought a mobile podcasting studio that's going to allow me now to create my podcast on the road at a very high level. Because one of the things I did not want to do is I mean, as much as you can, I can't batch create for nothing. Like I can't sit here and bang out. Usually I like to get out 2 episodes a week, and all my episodes are around the 1 hour mark. I can't sit down and I can't do no 4 episodes in batch or 6 I can't do that, right? I can't. So it's easier for me to just get a mobile setup and, when I'm on the road, record, do my thing. It also allows me now to, when I'm ready, when I'm at events and I wanna interview people, I could always organize and interview people on the road. So I'm really excited with the possibilities as to where this thing can go and what we're going to be doing and what I'm going to be bringing forward to you guys. I'm really excited about that. All right. This episode, though, this isn't a scripted episode. I kind of wanted to kick things off just thinking out loud, right? Thinking out loud. And the topic or the idea is Trinidad and Tobago too limiting to grow? That's the idea, right? That's the topic. That is the idea. Now, I am an eternal optimist. I see the silver lining and the bright sides to everything. And even when I don't, I am still going to press on and I'm going to figure it out. Like I'm not laying down, I don't give up or quit. A pivot, sure. All right. But ain't nothing really gonna stop me from doing what I gotta do. All right. However, I think over the past month, maybe 2 months, I've just been involved in so many different conversations with people from different age groups, different walks of life, different backgrounds, here in Trinidad. And the topic of, is Trinidad too limiting? It just keeps on coming up, all right? And where do you begin? So for me, taking the time out in Florida and just being out there, also with traveling a lot more, like going to Colombia especially, going out to Mexico, going to Florida. Those are my last 3 trips, right? And I'm in these places, and what is sticking out to me is the ease of doing business in everywhere that you go. So I'm in Florida. Me and my aunt, we go out to a restaurant, and we get there, it's packed. The line is out the door, right? It's packed. And I mentioned it's cold. So if you're standing outside, it's freezing cold, right? So you get in, we're like, yeah, we're looking for a table for 2. They ask for my aunt's name. They say, all right, cool. It's going to be about a 15 to 20 minute wait. You guys cool with that? We're like, yeah, no problem. Food is good. It's worth the wait. So then they're like, okay, let me get your name and let me get your phone number and pay attention to your phone. We will send you a text message when to come to the front. So your seat, at that point, we're going to let you know that your seat is ready. So again, no big deal to my aunt, but I've been in Trinidad for some years now. So these are things that, I'm picking up because I'm like, yo, I can't tell you the last time it's never happened in Trinidad. Ain't nobody doing that, right? So I'm noticing these things. And keep in mind, like whilst I'm talking, again, it's an open conversation. I'm not scripting anything. I'm just kind of walking through some of my experiences. So you have the people who are not waiting in the restaurant. Some people who don't mind sitting outside in the cold, they're sitting outside in the cold, but then other people are just waiting in the car, right? And as they get a text message saying, "Hey, your table is ready. Make your way to the front of the restaurant." They come out of their car. They get to they get to the front, and the waiter's there ready to greet them. Their name, fresh bread in hand, and they take them to their seat. And so when we got the text message, I was like, "Well, damn!" And we walked right to the front. We got our freshly baked bread, and with some honey, cinnamon, butter. Jesus, it was like crack. It was beautiful. It was lovely. And we get to our seat. And I noticed that, right? I'm like, wow, this is good. Like, why isn't this thing happening in Trinidad and Tobago? Why is it not happening? We again get to our seat, and I noticed there's a tablet there's like a stand-up tablet, clearly built specifically for restaurants, right? And on the screen, I see a couple of things. I see menu, I see call waiter, I see play games for the kids, and then I see pay now. So with the menu, you could tap on the menu and you could see the entire menu on the tablet, or you could have scanned a QR code and get the menu on your phone. But if you do it from the tablet, you can place your order in the tablet right then and there. Right? If you're viewing it from your phone, you could just view the menu, and then you could press call waiter. So what we ended up doing was, because my aunt wanted to ask some questions, we ended up just, watching the menu from our phones and then hit the call waiter button. Waiter came over and, we got to talking and she asked her questions and we made her order and whatnot. But if you did not want to do that, you would just hit the view menu button, and that way you can place your order for your things right on the tablet, right? So food comes, food is good, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to the end. We're done. So rather than, the awkward, you're trying to find your waiter, you're tapping on other waiters, "Hey, can you go call Billy and tell him that we're done and we're ready to pay?" And then Billy has to come whenever he comes, and then, go get the bill and then come back. Do you paying cash in the machine? And, rather than going through all of that, you literally just when you're done, you just hit pay now on the tablet. And remember, over there, everything is tap to pay, right? So you pay for your meal right on the tablet. And you can tap to pay with your bank card. You can tap to pay with your phone. You can tap to pay with your watch. So I just literally just watched my aunt hit pay now. We seen what the price was. And she loaded up her credit, her bank, or however she was paying. She loaded up her card on her watch. And she tapped her watch and paid. And the waiter gets notification that we have paid. So as we're getting up to leave, at some point, he meets us on the way on. He's like, "Yo, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. Have a great day." He didn't even worry about tip, because we've already paid for the tip via the tap to pay. Like, we added in the tip on the when we were on the checkout. And it was just such a seamless experience that it stood out. Right? Fast forward to, I'm making some purchases, right? So I tell my aunt, I'm like, "Yo, I gotta go to Best Buy. There's a few things that I need." So if you follow me over on Instagram, you would have been seeing that, I picked up the Rode Streamer X. That's what I'm going to be using the podcast on the go. I would have picked up the new DJI Osmo Pocket 3, so I could start to vlog and shoot some videos while I'm on the go. And then I would have picked up the Rode wireless go-to microphones to mic up, and that would sync to the Rode Streamer X. And again, I'll do a separate episode on that, right? So she's like, "All right, cool." So we get to Best Buy, and I'm checking out everything that I need. And and obviously it's the States, so you guys know they have a credit card for and like every single business has a credit card or some kind of line of credit for the stores or whatever, right? I mean, the States is built for consumerism. So anyways, so I'm getting my stuff and I'm getting ready to pay cash, right? And my auntie's like, nah, you're not paying cash in that. Yo, give me the cash and I'll put it on my Best Buy credit card. That way you get the points, right? And the reps also recommended that as well. Like they're asking, hey, if you have a Best Buy credit card, you can get X amount of points and blah, 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 right? So I'm like, I tell my aunt, I'm like, all right, well, do your thing, right? It don't matter to me. So what does she show? She does the purchase for me for the DJI Osmo Pocket and the not the Road X. She also got a TV. So I gave her the cash for my thing. Now I'm also in the arena for a new computer, right? So I've been looking at. I was gonna purchase a new Mac. So I currently have, or I did have a 2015 MacBook Pro, i7 with 16 gigs of RAM and blah, 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 right? And I know that whilst it's been perfect for me for everything that I've been doing to this point, I know that because I want to get into creating videos and learning how to edit videos, whatever, I wanted to have a more powerful system. So I wanted to make that investment and get something that I know is going to be able to handle everything I'm throwing at it on the road, from podcasting to video editing. I want something powerful. So I was going to go buy a MacBook with an M1 processor. But I'm at Best Buy now, and I'm seeing the brand new MacBooks that just came out with the M3 Pro processors and whatnot. And I'm like, yo, I'm seeing the price. It's $2,000 US, right? So I'm like, damn. I'm wondering if I should buy this, whatever. I'm wondering. And I'm looking back. I'm like, yo, I'm looking at all of the saved devices that I have in my eBay, and all of the M1 computers are right around $1,200 to $1,500 that I had saved. And my logic is, if you could afford $1,500, then you could afford $2,000, right? So I'm like, you know what, man? Yo, let me get this. Just came out. Oh man, they have it in space black too. It's looking beautiful. I'm like, man, F it. Let me go and grab this. Let me go grab the 14-inch MacBook Pro. It's $2,000. Man, let me just go get it, right? So I tell my aunt, I'm like, yo, do you want to do the same thing like how we paid for the the DJI Pocket? And she's like, yeah, how much is it? I tell her it's $2,000 US. She's like, okay, hold on. She's like, because she had bought a bunch of stuff already. So I mean, you obviously have to pay off your line of credit. But she's like, yo, I don't have enough to facilitate the purchase on the card. But hold on. So I watched her jump into the Best Buy app, right? The app knows who she is. The app has all of her credit information, like her credit history and whatever. And I see her slide the bar over to how much money she wants to increase her limit by. And she's like, how much is it? I'm like, $2,000. So she puts in how much she wants to increase her credit limit by, slides that bar over. I think she put like $4,000 or however much she put. And she hits apply, and literally in milliseconds, it says approved, and she has now increased her line of credit with Best Buy. Remember, this is all based on your credit history and whatnot. In seconds, she has increased her credit line with Best Buy, and she's like, great. She's like, now let's go make that purchase so she could go get back points and cash back off the purchase. And I just watched her do that, like whilst we were there in the computer area, do everything on her phone. Imagine if that was in Trinidad, to go and increase your credit line, to go increase your credit card. Everything is paperwork, and you have to come into the branch to do anything. All right? You can't do nothing over the phone. You can't do nothing on the computer. Every single thing is you got to fill up paperwork, come into the branch. It's a whole hullabaloo. It takes weeks to process. Heck, it took me almost a year and a half to get my credit card from Republic Bank because of so much problems during that process. So to watch her do that from her phone in milliseconds, I was like, God damn, right? So give her the money. I get my MacBook Pro, and I'm just, again, these little experiences, I'm like, yo, again, it just makes your living situation, easy. Because again, that's just one example. But that's just where things are in the world. When I went to Colombia and I'm checking into my hotel, they have a machine, they have a point of sale terminal. And the point of sale terminal caught my eye because the point of sale terminal says on it, hey, we process transactions in 150 currencies. I said, God damn. What do you mean? So when you're using the machine, because we here in Trinidad, we process in one currency, TT dollars, right? For better or worse. But to ensure that you can literally, spend your own money in your currency, their machines in Colombia, I forget which bank it's from, but 150 currencies it processes in, so then you can select the currency that you want to use and use that currency to pay them. And that way, you could have, used whatever card it is that you had on you and whatnot. I thought it was brilliant, right? When I was going to, and again, in Colombia, you realize that almost every single business you went to, smallest, to roadside vendors, everybody has a point of sale terminal in their pocket to do tap to pay. Everybody wants to be able to accept payments, credit card payments, bank card payments. And so going to a spa, paying for a massage at a small spa, they're asking you, how do you want to pay? And and this is in Colombia, we had an issue where their point of sale terminal just wasn't connecting to their, whatever they were using. And you're like, yo, no worries, man. What is your WhatsApp number? Gave them my phone number, and they sent me a digital invoice via WhatsApp. I click on the link. I put in my bank card. I was using my Scotiabank Links Visa debit card here in Trinidad, and I paid for my massage with my Scotiabank card via WhatsApp. And you're seeing all of these things, and you're like, yo, why are these things not happening? Now, some of these things we just don't have in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of them we do. Like you could send a digital invoice via, Figaro, WePay, who else? The banks offer their e-commerce solutions. So that could be done, but it doesn't happen because nobody does it. But over there, that is just a basic function of day-to-day business. Ease of use for the consumers. And they understand that, we're not going to be speaking to Colombians every day. We're going to have a lot of foreigners. And same thing with us. Carnival's coming up. How many businesses, small or big, are set up to accept payments from all over the world? We still have that big gap. And so where my conversation started to go with other people, with people in my space, my circle, I should say, is if you needed to get better at your craft, get better at your skill set, where are you going? Or first off, how do you get better at your skill set, right? And I asked a couple of people in my spaces, how do you get better at what you do? How do you grow your skill sets? And the answers went from, we read a lot. We buy books. Cool. They follow leaders in their space online on YouTube. No problem. Some of them fly out and go to different conferences, go to different workshops, but they fly out to go do those things. And then others straight up just said, well, now that you say that, there's, that's what they said, that's how they get better, right? So then I asked them, how do you go about growing your skill set locally? How do you go about growing your skill set locally? And that's where everybody was like, well, we don't. Because there's either no place locally for me to go to learn what I'm doing, or two, it's even if there is places, it's not being done at a high level to teach me anything. Like, sure, they're teaching, but what they're teaching is either doesn't align, or I don't agree, or I disagree with the things that they're teaching, or it's way out of date, or it's just not it's not enough to teach me. And so no, there's nowhere locally, and then you don't have people in your space to say you can go get mentors, or you can go and uh, there's nobody to really look up to in your space, or you can say, oh damn, they're doing such an amazing job, I can go learn from them, even if it's just learning from them from a distance. And that's one of the things that I have been noticing for myself. I'm like, yo, I'm in all of these spaces, and these spaces don't pour into me professionally. Not directly. Like I'm in spaces where I can take lessons from other people for different things, right? But I'm in e-commerce, I'm in digital strategy, I'm in digital marketing, digital research, even in media. Like, there's nobody in media that I look up to say, hey, I could take lessons from them, because a lot of them don't even see media the way that I see media. So where do I go to learn and get poured into locally? And there's nowhere that I learn from locally or get poured into locally. And the fact that I'm speaking to multiple people and they're saying the same things, and then I get into a conversation with a friend, and she travels the world. She spent too many years outside, and she's been in Trinidad for like the last 2 years, and she just went and got a place, and she's moving back out to the States. But she's lived around the world in different places, and she's like, yo, my time in Trinidad is done. She's like, besides the crime situation, there's just no place for me. She's like, I'm digressing. Like, when I'm living in Europe, you're learning. Everywhere you go, every situation you're in, you're learning, because there's people who are doing what you do at such a high level that you have nothing but respect and admiration for what they're doing, and you're constantly learning. She's like, when she lived in the States, same thing. But here in Trinidad, you're digressing because there just isn't that environment. Now, the rest of the countries, I know people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, well, all these other countries are more developed. Listen, that's besides the point, all right? Besides the point. The point still remains, developed or not. If you are doing something at a very high level and you're living here, you're digressing because you're not being poured into and you're not learning. And for some people, that might be okay. But if you're still young, hungry, forget the young part. If you're still hungry and still trying to elevate and do what you do, and you need to be in spaces that are pouring into you, and you don't have that locally, I don't care what the reason is as to why it's not happening. It's still not happening. So I still have to go and put myself in a situation to continue to learn and become better. And if that situation's just flat out not here, then what do you expect people to do? And it's so weird to me that people will, and they will, there are people that are going to listen to this, and they're going to jump to the defense of Trinidad. Oh, well, this is not happening for this reason. This, at the end of the day, cool. Like, we can sit here and we could talk about, all the reasons why it's not happening for whatever the reason is. Cool. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because I still have to get better. I still have to learn. I still have to grow. I still have to put myself in spaces and situations to grow and to get better. And that is not happening here. Now, again, crime aside, crime is crime. It's black and white. It is what it is, right? I'm not going to dive into that. But remember, we're talking about, Trinidad being limited. So now, take you back to the States. One of the things that I knew was a priority, and it was top priority for me, was to get a bank account outside of Trinidad and Tobago, because the banks in Trinidad, the situation with banking in Trinidad is the worst I've ever seen. Now, I'm from Canada, right? Canada's banking situation isn't, it has its own challenges. I mean, and I grew up always looking at the U.S. I'm like, damn, like Canada's so limited, but you can still do things, right? Like nobody wants Canadian currency. They've always laughed at Canadian currency. Like you can't travel with Canadian currency like that. No one wants that shit, right? Sorry for cussing. No one wants that. No one wants Canadian currency. But nobody wants Trinidad currency. And the fact that, all of our bank cards outside of like Scotiabank, JMB, the majority of the banks in Trinidad don't allow their bank cards to be used outside of Trinidad. And last year, I've been put in some, I don't want to call it embarrassing situations. It wasn't embarrassing, but I was put in situations where there was like 2 trips that I went, and I had no access to my money. I had no access to my money. And if it wasn't for me like converting like a couple of, a little 300 US in cash and just having that, like I wouldn't have been able to eat. And then I had to, when I was in Bahamas coming out to the end of last year, I had to call all my banks. I bank with everybody. I had to call all my banks and be like, yo, who of you, amongst all of you, like whose bank card can I use outside of Trinidad? And Scotiabank was like, well, you could use our card for 100 US per day. I'm like, God damn it, that's no money. But you know what? That's how I ate. That is how I ate. And it was a priority for me to get a bank account outside of Trinidad, because with all the travel I'm doing, it can't be that I don't have access to money. And I'm not trying to, walk around with a wad of cash and spend ridiculous fees. So, you're in a catch-22. So you could go to the airport, you could take out cash. So for the most part last year, I would always go and I'd at least take out, $500 to $1,000, but I'm paying airport prices. And then the other thing is, like, I don't want to have to keep on going on Facebook. Hey, who has US? Like, bro, like, why am I doing all that, man? Why am I doing all that? Like, I don't like to broadcast my business. Like, I don't like to broadcast my personal business. I don't care to do all that, right? So I don't want to have to keep on asking people online, who has US to sell and blah blah. I ain't doing all that. I just want my bank cards to work, and that's that, right? And I have a credit card, but guess what? They're only giving me 500 US per month per cycle, right? That's no money. So I'm in these situations where I'm like, yo, I have money, but I don't have access to my money. And that's driving me nuts. So when I was in the States, day 2 or day 3, I walked into Bank of America and I opened up an account. It took me, all they needed for me to open up the account, a non-citizen account, was 2 forms of ID and a proof of address in Florida. Or in the U.S., not in Florida, in the U.S. And I asked my aunt to add me to one of her bills. We printed a bill, had my name on it, and that was my proof of address. I walked in with my 2 ID, and they opened it up, in and out. There was a walk-in, too. No appointment needed. There was a walk-in. And I got my account. And so now, I'm just moving money out of my Trinidad accounts and I'm putting it in my U.S. account. Why? Because I have no limitations on my U.S. account. And you have people that are so stuck. Like, me, I am always going to show you guys the things that I'm doing. And, because I know that whatever I'm doing, you guys have these challenges as well. And so I put this information online, hey, just open up a Bank of America account. This is how I did it. If you guys travel to the States, go and open up an account. And whilst the 95% of the comments are good, like I'm watching some of the other comments, and I'm like, yo, these people are these people for real? Some people coming about, no, this is a scam. Don't do this. Don't do that. This man is trying to lead you down the wrong path to opening up an account outside of Trinidad. I'm like, yo, this has to be agents of the Matrix. These people have to be agents of the Matrix. They need to keep you stuck here. Like, what? I have one girl jump out and be like, well, I work in the bank, and the fees to what you're trying to do are very high, and the bank doesn't, allow you to do these things. I'm like, wait, girl, listen, man. What do you mean the bank don't allow you to do these things and I'm already doing it? And that's one thing I hate. I have a pet peeve. I have a personal pet peeve of anybody jumping on my content, telling me that something cannot be done. I'm only here teaching and showing you because I am doing it. So just because it doesn't, you can't wrap your small mind around the things that I do. Like, don't come on my content telling me anything. If you want to talk about things, like, you make your own content, you put it out, right? But don't come on my stuff and tell me you can't do this. I'm only here because I'm doing it. Sorry, you're late. It's already done. And that's why there's a video showing you that I'm, how I did it. It's done, right? Then you're telling me about fees. Oh, it's going to cost you this money to do that. You think me and the people in my situation or similar situations give a damn about fees? I'm telling you from now, the people who are serious about their business don't give a damn about fees because they understand we don't have options. Don't tell me, oh, well, if you're moving money from Trinidad to the U.S., it's going to cost you this. You think I care? I don't care, because the benefits of me getting my money out of Trinidad far outweigh the stupid fees. So once again, remove yourself. This doesn't involve you. Remove yourself. All right? But anyways, I digress. The majority of the people came on, they're like, yo, this is so timely because they have so many situations where they don't have access to their money. They're traveling. They're trying to buy things online. They're trying to do things, and they just can't. They just can't. And the fact that you could just walk into the bank, I mean, it's the same in Canada. But again, I've been here for some years now, where you're in this system in Trinidad, and you forget how far behind we are in Trinidad because of how limiting it is. So you could open up a bank account over the phone in Canada. You could open it up online, right? That's what I know. Same thing in the States. Open it up online. Heck, you could open up new accounts from the mobile app. All that good stuff. Their banking app opens with my face, connects to PayPal, connects to Zelle. Like, there's so many things you could do from the app. You could do check deposits from the app. I mean, these are things that have been happening for the last 15, 20 years. But these things are not even heard of in Trinidad. And funny enough, when it comes to check deposits, using the app to do a check deposit, the Minister of Finance was asked about that 2 years ago, and he's like, nope, we're not ready for that, and we have no plans on doing that. And it's like, all right, well, again, people they're just keeping us stuck in these same systems that is not evolving. It's not growing. And then when you try to do something different, or you try to step up and try to digitize something, it's just a mess. It's just a mess in Trinidad. So you're in a space where you're not growing because there's not many spaces to go and learn from people who are doing things at a high level, or learn at institutions that are teaching you the proper things or the right things. Like, I remember when a situation with my grandmother was in the hospital, And my mom, she's a lecturer at a university in Toronto for nursing. Plus, she works in our primary hospital in Toronto. Well, the primary hospital for Canada, right? Because when things happen, they fly people into that that hospital in Toronto. So she's a lecturer and she works at our main big hospital in Canada. And she's here and she's like, yo, she is seeing equipment and she is seeing practices being done by the doctors that in Canada they have stopped for like over 20 years. She's like, yo, I haven't seen this equipment since the 90s. She's like, I'm watching the doctors perform techniques, and she's like, yo, they've outlawed these things, and we're still doing these things in Trinidad because that's what's being taught in the schools. Heck, I've gone into tertiary situations where I'm looking at the curriculum with the program advisors, and I'm just like, yo, this ain't it. This ain't it. Like, there's too many gaps, or you guys are not teaching anything, man. And then they're not teaching nothing because you look around Trinidad and nothing works as advertised. You can't look around Trinidad and see anything that works the way it's supposed to work. Things work by vibes. As B-Mobile came out and changed their network name to Isa Vibe, that is how Trinidad... That's how Trinidad works. Trinidad works on vibes. Trinidad don't work on data. Trinidad don't work on strategy. Trinidad just works on vibes. And it's getting to me, coming from Canada, like, it's gotten to me because, again, you've seen better. You're in situations, you're working for companies abroad, you travel, you know what's happening out here. And then you come back here and you're like, yo, this is not it. We're so focused on partying. We're so focused on partying and having a good time that there's no balance. I have no issue with Carnival. I have no issue with Fest. I don't care. I mean, I've done it I've had my fun. My fun looks different now. Now I'm not gonna go spend $20,000 on Carnival. I'm gonna go spend 30 grand and go and travel. All right? In a blink of an eye. My fun looks different now. So I have no problem on partying and having a good time. Do your thing, right? Get it out. You got to go and do it. For me, I've gotten on my system. My focus is on something else. Maybe I might, hit 40 and want to party again. I don't know. But there's no balance in Trinidad. Like, we're not focused on anything that is fruitful and beneficial to the country, which is why nothing in Trinidad works. It's built for inefficiencies. If you have to go deal with the bank, you got to go take time out of your job to go deal with the banks. You got to go buy furniture. You got to go take time out of your day. You got to go call in sick or come in late to go buy furniture. Like, the whole entire system in the country is built for inefficiency. It's not built for learning. Sure, there is free education, but the reality is you go to school, you go get degrees or whatever to come out to contribute to society, and if nothing is working as advertised, then there is major problems. And people are coming out of school and don't know nothing about nothing within their industries. We can't build roads properly. We can't build. How many times are our roads collapsing? And they're every time you hear about these roads collapsing, the engineers come out and say, you guys are doing. The people that are building these things are not building it to spec. Like, nothing in Trinidad works as advertised. And so it's at the point now where, like, for me, a big part of my goal, and I mentioned this in the last episode, a big part of my goal for this year is to travel a hell of a lot. Like, last year I traveled every single month, but like this year, I need to keep that up. But also I need to start going to outside events, conferences, do more workshops, Um, because I got to get better. But then here's the catch-22, right? The catch-22 is you learn so much, and then because the rest of the population isn't keeping pace, there's such a huge gap that you can't implement the majority of the things that you're learning outside. Like I seen a friend put out some predictions for marketing, and I laughed because I'm like, yo, that's predictions for the U.S. I'm like, that ain't predict that. None of that stuff is happening here. The companies here are not even ready for that. They're not doing, and they don't even have anything in place to put what you're talking about into effect. So your predictions are not predictions for here. They're predictions for marketing in general, but that's not going to work here. All right. And I'm starting to feel like, yo, how many times am I going to say the basics? You have in other countries where mandatory e-commerce websites. I mean, e-commerce websites are mandatory because that is how people are going to shop. Why do you have to still tell people get a website? You still have the majority of the population saying, "Yo, we just need Facebook and Instagram." And you're like, "No, you live in the Caribbean where people cannot shop on your Instagram or your Facebook, or any social media platform of your choosing. You still need to bring people to a platform for commerce to happen. And you're still saying these things after how many years? So it's just starting to feel like, we're not growing. Not feel like, we're just not growing. And the more you travel, and again, a lot of the people that are stuck in their ways just don't travel, so they don't know what better looks like. So how could they strive to do better when they have no idea what better looks like? But if you travel and you're seeing the world and you're seeing how things are operating in your space in different countries and cultures, you're like, well, yo, we gotta bring this back we gotta bring this back to the country and start to implement it. Most times you don't have anybody to help you build the things that you're looking at. And so Trinidad for me has become this extremely limiting place. Again, I'm not even addressing crime. I'm talking about, learning, upskilling, reskilling, doing better. And then are other people doing the same thing to provide you better experiences, to make living here easier? Is the business... Is the ease of doing business getting better? The answer is no. The ease of business is not getting better because the people working in these companies are not upskilling so that they can even give you better. People cannot give you better when they are not upskilling themselves. They can't give you better. They just can't. And so it feels like... And I know I don't want this to, come off like Trinidad hate. But it's very disheartening when you're looking around the region, the Caribbean region, and even if nowhere is perfect, right? Obviously, nowhere is perfect. Canada's not perfect. If it was perfect, I'd be there. Hell no. It's not. Right? I would never live in the States. Right? So nowhere is perfect. But you can see progress. So when you look around the region and you're hearing what's happening in Jamaica, you're hearing what's happening in Guyana, Barbados, Antigua, Bermuda, there's so much things that are on the books and the conversations that are happening. And I think that's one of the more, that's something that gives you light at the end of the tunnel. The fact that the conversations about a lot of these things are happening. And I think what makes me feel like we're just in the weeds in Trinidad is the conversations in Trinidad are not progressive at all. In no space, no area, no industry, the conversations are not progressive at all. And again, you look around and there's no progress. I'm not doing anything different. I came here in 2014. I'm not doing anything different from when I came to now. Sure, the internet's faster. That's about it. But I'm not doing anything different. I'm still using the same banking apps. I'm still paying my bills online. A lot of people, this is brand new stuff to them. Right? When I came, I'm asking people how they paying their bills, and people are like, yo, we go into Sure Pay, and we go into the bank, or we go into the companies themselves. I never paid for anything. Since I've been here, I've been using online banking, and online banking is still brand new to so many people. None of the books that I buy are from local people. There's no workshop I've gone to locally. I speak at a lot of events, and I'm at these events, and I'm learning nothing from the people that are there, because they're not talking about anything progressive. They're not showing me anything that is helping me. Half the time, I'm like, I disagree with what they're talking about. And I mean, people disagree with me all the time too. But when people disagree with me, it's kind of funny, because I'm like, yo, you're disagreeing because you still want to keep the old ways that you guys are accustomed to doing. So it's kind of funny. But anywho, it's so limiting now, where I'm like, something has to be done. From banking to learning to ease of doing business, if there's all these limitations, then how do you grow? How do you continue to evolve? How do you continue to get better? And I don't have the answer to that, besides travel, soak in all the knowledge. But again, then when you travel, you go to all these workshops. Maybe you do remote learning. So you go, you can go Harvard remotely. Right? You can go Harvard remotely. All right, cool. Now that you have this Harvard education, how are you bringing it back and implementing it when everybody's so far behind they can't implement any of the things you're talking about? It's a crazy situation that we are in. And the fact that I'm having these conversations with other people who are well-traveled, or who have, they're dual citizens, so they're in and out of Trinidad. And those are the people, to me, that, understand where I'm coming from, or again, the conversations, I'm hearing their sides, and they're telling me the same things. So I know it's just not me, right? But it really does have me feeling like my time in Trinidad is limiting. It's dwindling down. It really has me feeling like that. And this year has me feeling like, when I travel, I'm traveling to look at a new place to live. Canada's not it. Like, I can't do the cold, and cost of living in Toronto is absurd. And I'm not I would never, even when I was there, I would never live in another province. Ontario was the only province I was ever living. I'm not living in no British Columbia, no Saskatchewan, no Manitoba, no Prince Edward Island, none of that. I ain't not doing that. No Quebec. And the States has never been a place I cared to live at. Never. Could visit once in a blue moon. I don't even care to visit the States. Like, when I see people here in Trinidad and their obsession with going to the States, I'm like, why? I could drive across the border from Canada. I never cared to go to the States. Never. When Labor Day, you go here, you go there. I never really cared to go. Right? I don't understand the obsession with going to the States. Anywho, doesn't matter. That's not for me. But now I'm feeling like, travel, keep your eyes open. You know, what does the ideal place to live in? Again, I know nowhere is perfect. I am not blinded by that. I'm just saying, what do you want from life? At 37, what do you want from life? What does the environment you need to be in, what does that need to look like? What does that country need to look like? What do you want from a country? What do you want? And I think this year is me asking those questions. When I went to Colombia, I felt so at home in Colombia. It was wild. Like I seen so much of what I was looking for. So I'm like, all right, that's on the list. I have some other countries I plan on going to. Like I plan to go to Bali. I'm still psyching myself up for that 36-hour flight. But a lot of expats and digital nomads are going to Bali and Thailand and these places. So that's on the agenda to go to this year as well. But yeah, like I'm starting to travel with the idea of what do I want out of life? I would love to go to Jamaica. Jamaica is a lot more expensive than Trinidad. And I mean, I don't want to, go from Trinidad situation and go to something exactly like in Jamaica. Crime is still out of whack in Jamaica, but there is more business opportunities for me in Jamaica. Like I would make more money in Jamaica than I would in Trinidad, right? And there's just a lot more opportunities because there's so many more things happening in Jamaica within my space. So, Jamaica is always an option, but I don't need to deal with all at that point, I don't need to deal with all the crime, right? So this year is really that year where, man, take your time, go travel, and really start to think about, what do you want out of life? What is going to be the environment that you need for you to become your best self, both personally and professionally, all right? And yeah, that's my episode for today. Feeling like, again, the topic was, is Trinidad too limiting? Is it stunting growth? And I'm just sharing some of the experiences I've had and thoughts over the past, couple of months. And yeah, do with it what you will, There's stuff I know you're going to listen. There's things you're going to take, and it's going to provoke some thoughts for you as well. But don't think that you can't migrate. Don't think that you have to stay. You are not a tree. You can move. I've already made one move. I lived in Toronto for 28 years of my life, and I decided to come and make a move out to Trinidad and spend, some time out in Trinidad. And my time has been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. Could never have traded it for the world. It's done so much for me. But now I'm trying to level up, and I'm trying to be me times 10. And I need to put myself in the environment to water me and allow me to free up and be my best self so I can get to that version of me that I aspire to be, right? And I hope you want that for yourself too. So think about that, all right? If you enjoyed today's episode, whatever podcast platform you're using to listen to me from, hit the like, rate the podcast. If you really enjoyed the episode, don't forget to drop the reviews. The reviews continue to help grow the podcast. People read the reviews before they listen to the podcast, so that always helps. And don't forget to follow me over on social media at KERONROSC across all social media platforms. Check out the KarenRose.com website to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms. Or check out the digipreneur.fm website to keep up to date on all things website related. Next episode, we'll dive into the technology you need to succeed online and create content, and I'll dive in deeper into the stuff that I got because I know that's a fun topic. But yeah, man, think about your personal development and your growth, and put yourself first, man. Even if you're still living in Trinidad and want to live in Trinidad, no problem, right? But start to travel, start to get to conferences and do workshops outside of Trinidad so that you can really learn and see what is going on in the rest of the world and take that and bring it back and, again, continue to be the change that you want to see. I mean, I've been doing it for a while here in Trinidad, but now I need to do more for myself to be a better version. And who knows, maybe I still live in Trinidad, or maybe I decide to pick up and move to continue to grow and do my thing, right? Thank you for tuning in. This was the first episode 150 of 2024, and it was my pleasure. Take care!
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karan Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karan Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.